What's up YouTube? Rosario here with another video. This isn't a fitness related video, but rather about life in general, how to face it, and also some of the toughest questions I've been riddled by for years. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now the first question is how to face big issues. I would say start by dividing them into small, more manageable tasks. By doing this, you will make it appear doable and also boost your morale throughout the process and keep you motivated while you're completing one task at a time. Also, if you don't know where to go, the best way to move forward is to trace back your steps. I believe Dumbledore said that, so it must be right. Then, before you even realize it, you've completed a monumental task. This lesson will help you not just at work, but at life in general. It's just as starting a new degree, that will last for several years. If you divide it into individual years and also every year into periods or exam sessions, and then each one of them again into each individual exam, suddenly the degree doesn't seem so scary anymore and it actually looks doable. Also, don't be so scared or too proud, like in my case, to ask for help. If you surround yourself with good and honest friends, with family members that love you unconditionally, they would jump to your aid in the blink of an eye and help you push through difficult times. Facing problems together only helps strengthening the bond. On the other hand, sometimes in life you feel like it's time to be alone and not relying on anyone else to continue your journey. Many call it the lonely chapter, and if you watch Chris Williamson podcast, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm convinced it's a vital part of the growing up process, gradually leaving behind the life you have to chase a better one. In order to do that, you need to be ready to make some sacrifices along the way. And oftentimes, certain relationships of any kind are the chosen ones. When you're going through changes, the environment and the people around you will be a determining factor in your success, assuming obviously that you put in the hard work as well. So being able to move away from your inner circle, which for many represent their comfort zone, it might be a difficult but also necessary choice to realize your vision to the fullest. And also, you need to be ready to become an improved version of yourself. Obviously, no one has to live like a monk or, be falling victim of the hustle mentality. But the point is to cut out more free time for you to dedicate more effort towards your goals. Then, if those people that were with you from the beginning are still standing by your side once you've, at the end of the transformation, well, then so much for the better. Question number two is how to overcome fear. When life feels too overwhelming, take a step back, deep breath, and calm down. Then allow yourself to observe your life from a distance instead of always standing in the eye of the storm. And you'll suddenly realize that your vision is much clearer. You can analyze then the areas of your life that are causing you the stress, and you can identify the areas that you can actually make an impact on. Those are the parts of your life that you should be actually focusing on. You should put your best efforts into avoiding circumstances out of your control and let them dictate your mood, your actions, your words, and also, ultimately your thoughts. Fear can be the ultimate obstacle to reach your goals, and if not faced, can leach to your emotions and poison every thought you have. Fear can also be a good thing, to be honest, but only at times, in small doses. It can prove you don't want to lose someone. It proves that you care about what you do and say, and it's an indicator of how fully you understand the situation, the risks involved, how wise you've grown. But like most things, taken to the extreme can pull the brakes on every move you make. causing to live in a constant state of stillness, too afraid to make a choice and face the consequences that are attached to your choices. So you end up doing nothing at all. And honestly, to me, that's a thousand times worse. Believe me, I'm an expert in that. But the most horrible fear you can be gripped by is the one of expressing yourself. For fear of being rejected by your loved ones, or maybe because we tend to care way too much about the opinions of total strangers. So I get it, we all want to feel accepted and liked for who we are, but the only way to do it is not to bend ourselves to people's taste and preferences and trying to please everybody because, shocking news, it is impossible. One of the most liberating feelings that you can experience in life is being unapologetically you and let everyone else know you don't care about it. Sure, we could smooth some edges of our personality, and for sure there's always room for improvement, but ultimately we are who we are, and if we're good people and we have people in our lives that loves us because of that, we should just be proud of ourselves. Accepting your flaws and also acknowledging your strength is the first step towards inner peace, which I think is the real key to stay true to oneself. Question number three is how to find the right partner. Now, love doesn't just happen, out of the blue. You need to work for it. You need to work hard. If struggling to find a partner, I don't think you should channel your efforts into finding a right partner, but rather into becoming the type of person that your soulmate will fall in love with. Also, the perfect moment is not just a matter of luck, but sometimes it's important to be able to tweak the circumstances in your favor, obviously, to make the stars align, so to speak. In terms of dynamics, I still think men should do the first move. It's hard to explain, but I guess it's a matter of traditional values, especially in terms of courtship, and also a biological need that men have for the hunt. However, I still think women have a sort of responsibility in a way to at least signal interest so men feel encouraged to make the first move. So it doesn't have to be obvious, but especially smart women, they know the subtle heart of sending hints to men, I guess. And but then men have to be smart enough to catch those hints. And that's the signal that it's a good idea to start a conversation, like eye contact or a simple smile or an unrelated question. Then, as a lot of things, once you've obtained it, the hard part is to maintain it, just like your physique. So when you're in a relationship, being outspoken and clear about feelings, about intentions, you know, about how do you see the relationship moving forward, it is the pillar of a healthy bond. And obviously it's not as easy as it seems. Sometimes you have to dose some words, or you gotta tell a white lie. maybe you don't Maybe you don't speak out straight away about something that bothers you to see how things evolve, and suddenly the snowball becomes an avalanche. So as hard as it might be sometimes to put some thoughts into words, um, it is the only way to make things work. Sorry about the repetition here. And how do you know if you met the one? Well, can you accept the idea of losing them? Do you see a future in which that person is not present? Being away from them hurts like hell, or is it a liberating feeling? So only you know the answers to these questions and can decide whether or not it's worth the effort. The way I see it, when you find a loving and caring partner that appreciates you for who you are and generally wants to be by your side, motivate you, and they see the best of you, You should hang tight to them because people like that rarely come along in life. Question number 4 is how to find happiness. And yes, here we're getting into the thick of the video. Now, I'm going to start with a controversial take here. Happiness is overrated. Now, let me explain. If sadness is a temporary state that turns into depression when prolonged, so does happiness when it turns into satisfaction. So, strong emotions are temporary, like rage. And it's important, to ride on their wave, to experience them to their fullest. Well, maybe no rage, otherwise you might become a violent lunatic. But happiness and sadness, it's important to, I would say, like, go with them so you fully understand where they're coming from. And we also must understand that once they're gone, we must go back to a more stable mood. So the great shift in mindset here that could help you appreciate happiness more is also try to find it in the small things. Yeah, no, it's a cliche and whatever, but if you can be sad for no reason, you might as well be happy for no reason. And again, this is an absolute gem from Chris Williamson. But I know it's easier said than done. Sometimes life beats you up so badly, it seems like nothing is going our way, that the universe is out there to get us, and whatever we do, it goes the opposite way. Well, here's when a positive mindset really comes in handy. Live your life hopelessly convinced that things are gonna go your way. Things are gonna eventually work out for the best for you. And all you have to do is to endure these tough times. Imagine your life is a movie and you already know the ending, obviously a happy one. So you can also see everything that's happening in between as the necessary plot device to lead you to that happiness. So you can basically find a purpose in everything that's happening to you as a way to to get you to where you want to be. Now I'm gonna get into cliche territory again here, but I think happiness is just like a rose, beautiful but also full of thorns. I didn't even mean to rhyme, but whatever. So, if you let every action that you do and every word that you say revolve around happiness, it can keep you emotionally hostage of a fleeting stage that can last hours, minutes, or even a few seconds till it's gone. And and then what you do? You just crave some more. So happiness can be a drug in a sense because the withdrawals are the worst part of it. It's like, chasing a high and then you chase an even bigger one and then an even bigger one in a never ending cycle. So, what if then you build a tolerance to happiness and, when something happens to you that should bring you joy, you feel nothing at all? I know that that's not the case for many people because most of us, let's be honest, we don't live that many joyful moments in life. But, let's just stick to the point for argument's sake. This basically is the concept of an hedonistic lifestyle. It's a life that basically revolves around material pleasures, and you become slave of these pleasures, and you can never get out of it because you're always chasing more, because the current thing you have that will bring you joy, that brought you joy once, it doesn't bring you joy anymore. So if you I think if you simplify your life and you really learn how to enjoy the poetic beauty of a quiet life, is it's not just a therapeutic feeling, but honestly it's what can really lead you to true happiness, because you find happiness not in what money can buy, but in having a clear consciousness, in having genuine relationships around you, and overall being at peace with yourself. Now, the last question is how to find a purpose. And honestly, this question is probably the most important to me because I think it's a lifelong journey. So, what makes human different from animals? Well, I guess it's really this sense of, search for purpose that we have. But it's also our ability of understanding the miracle of life, which of which we have full consciousness and always interrogated ourselves with its meaning. Now, despite your religious affiliation or lack of, if a purpose in life is vital because it drives our very existence and keep us in check in a way because it keeps at bay the creeping fear of death that we all in different ways feel. A purpose is either innate or discovered later in life, and it can change or stay the same since birth. And I think without, in a way, we kind of lose our north star. We're merely surviving in a way. Life would be just an endless sequence of gray days, revolving around eating, sleeping, and mating. I mean, nothing wrong with that, but I don't think it's just it. While purpose adds also spice to life, it is also the difference between seeing in black and white in a way, and then you suddenly switch to technicolor. Some aspects of everyday life can be quite dull. I mean, let's be honest, no one loves, doing the dishes or, hanging the laundry to dry. But a purpose can be that spark that ignites your soul, the spice missing in your days. It's the famous Japanese philosophy called Hikigai, it, which is inspired by what many Japanese people consider the greatest honor, which is perfecting a skill for the rest of your life until your mastery becomes an inspiration for other people to learn it or to find their spark. Perfection isn't the destination, but it's the overall mindset. What matters is improvement through repetition. It's the old saying that consistency beats talent when talent is not consistent. But here's the tricky bit. This only works when something represents your true vocation in life, and you can really dedicate your entire existence to it. Every second of every day, spent breathing the very thing that brings you joy, fulfillment, and the ever craved sense of meaning that we start chasing the moment our brain has matured. uh, because obviously we need to have enough grasp on these tricky subjects before we can even approach them. So I would say the search for a purpose and the moment it's found are defining moment in everyone's life, and also will shape the rest of our days and turn it into the most amazing journey you'll ever be on. All right, guys, this is the end of it. Obviously, I didn't tackle every single important question, but just few that were really meaningful to me. So if you like this kind of content, hit the like button, subscribe, and comment what would you like to see next. Until then, see ya.